Have you ever been driving alone at night on a dark, empty highway? That moment when you check your mirror and see headlights getting closer and closer behind you? What if I told you that sometimes those headlights belong to something much worse than just another driver? Tonight, I'm going to share 5 true stories that will make you never want to drive alone at night again. These are real stories from real people who lived through the most scary moments of their lives. And the worst part? Every single one of these stories happened on highways just like the ones you drive on every day. Story 1. The truck driver who wasn't there. My name is Michael, and I'm a long-distance truck driver. I've been driving trucks for 15 years, and I've seen a lot of strange things on the road. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened on Highway 50 in Nevada. People call it the loneliest road in America, and after what I went through, I know why. It was a cold October night in 2019. I was carrying a load of furniture from California to Colorado. The deadline was tight, so I had to drive through the night. I'd done this route many times before, but this time felt different from the start. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, making the desert around me look like a black ocean. My truck's headlights were the only light for miles and miles. I remember stopping at a gas station just before getting on Highway 50. The old man working there looked at me strange when I told him I was driving through the night. "Bad night for it," he said, shaking his head. "Bad things happen on that road when the moon is dark." I laughed it off. I'm not a person who believes in that kind of stuff, or at least I wasn't. The first hour on Highway 50 was normal. Just me, the road, and the darkness. I was listening to talk radio to keep myself company. The signal was weak, going in and out, but it was better than silence. That's when I noticed my temperature gauge acting weird. It would jump to hot, then back to normal, then hot again. My truck was only 2 years old. It shouldn't have been having problems. Around 2 a.m., I was getting tired. My eyes were getting heavy, and I was thinking about pulling over for a quick nap. That's when I saw it. Another truck, maybe half a mile ahead of me. I could see its red tail lights glowing in the darkness. I felt better seeing another driver out here. It made me feel less alone. I decided to follow those lights and keep myself awake by focusing on them. But here's where things got weird. No matter how much I pressed on the gas, I couldn't catch up to that truck. It stayed exactly the same distance ahead of me. Always half a mile. Never closer, never further. At first I thought maybe we were just going the same speed. But then I slowed down to test it. The truck ahead slowed down too. I sped up. It sped up. It was matching my speed perfectly. I looked at my speedometer. It was showing 65 miles per hour, but the scenery outside wasn't moving that fast. It was like I was going 30, maybe 35, but the needle clearly showed 65. Something was wrong with my truck, or something was wrong with this road. My hands started to sweat on the steering wheel. This wasn't normal. In 15 years of driving, I'd never seen anything like this. I grabbed my CB radio and tried to call out to the other truck. "Hey there, truck ahead of me on Highway 50. This is Big Mike. You copy?" Nothing, just static. I tried again and again. No answer. I tried different channels. Channel 19, Channel 9, even the emergency channel. All static, but not normal static. This static had a pattern to it, like breathing. In and out, like something was breathing into the radio. Then something happened that made my heart stop. The truck's taillights suddenly went out, complete darkness, but I could still hear it. I could hear the sound of its engine, the sound of its tires on the road. It was still there, driving in front of me, but with no lights at all. How was that even possible? How could someone drive in complete darkness? I turned on my high beams, trying to see the truck, but there was nothing there. The road ahead was empty. Yet I could still hear it. The sound was getting louder, like it was getting closer, but I couldn't see anything. My whole body was shaking now. Something was very, very wrong. The sound changed. It wasn't just an engine anymore. It was mixed with something else. Metal scraping on asphalt, like the truck was dragging something, or like it was falling apart while driving. The scraping got louder and louder until it was all I could hear. I decided to stop. I hit the brakes and pulled over to the side of the road. My truck came to a stop and I sat there, breathing hard, trying to understand what was happening. The desert was silent. No sound of another truck. No sound of anything. Just me, alone on the side of the road. I turned off my engine to listen better. That was a mistake. The silence was complete. No wind, no insects, nothing. It was like the world had stopped. Even my own breathing seemed too loud. I could hear my heart beating in my chest, fast and scared. I was about to start driving again when I heard it. A knock on my driver's side door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. My blood turned to ice. Who could be knocking on my door in the middle of nowhere at 2 a.m.? I slowly turned my head to look out the window. There was a man standing there, but calling him a man doesn't feel right. He was wearing old trucker clothes, the kind from the 1970s. His face was pale, so pale it almost glowed in the darkness, and his eyes were completely black. No white parts at all, just black holes where eyes should be. But the worst part was his smile. He was smiling at me, but his smile was too wide. It went from ear to ear, literally, like someone had cut his face to make a bigger smile. And when he smiled, I could see that his teeth were wrong. They were too long, too sharp, like animal teeth. He knocked again. Knock, knock, knock. Then he spoke, and his voice sounded like it was coming from very far away, even though he was right outside my door. "Let me in," he said. "I need a ride." Every part of my body was screaming at me to drive away. But I was frozen. I couldn't move. The man, or whatever it was, knocked again, harder this time. "Let me in," he said again. "I've been waiting so long." He put his face against the window, and I could see him better. His skin wasn't just pale. It was see-through. I could see dark veins under it. But the veins weren't carrying blood. They were carrying something black, something that moved like oil. "You're going my way," he said, and his breath fogged up the glass. But the fog was black, not white. "Everyone goes my way eventually. Why not give me a ride?" That broke the spell. I slammed my truck into gear and hit the gas. The truck jumped forward, tires screaming on the road. In my side mirror, I could see the man still standing there watching me drive away. He didn't try to follow. He just stood there in the middle of the road, getting smaller and smaller until the darkness swallowed him up. But then I saw something that made me scream. In my other mirror, the passenger side mirror, he was there too, standing in the same spot, but on that side of the road. How could he be in 2 places at once? I looked back and forth between the mirrors. He was in both, standing completely still, that horrible smile on his face. I drove faster, pushing my truck as hard as it would go. 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. But in the mirrors, he never got further away. He stayed the same distance, standing in the road, smiling. I closed my eyes for a second, hoping it was just my imagination. When I opened them, he was gone from the mirrors. But now he was running alongside my truck. He was keeping up with me at 90 miles per hour, running without moving his legs. He was floating next to my truck, his face level with my window, still smiling. He raised his hand and waved at me, a slow, friendly wave. Then he pointed ahead. I looked where he was pointing and saw something that made no sense. There was another truck ahead. My truck. I could see the back of my own truck driving ahead of me. The license plate, the company logo, everything. It was exactly my truck. But I was driving my truck. How could it be ahead of me? The thing running beside me laughed. Not a human laugh. It sounded like metal tearing, like glass breaking. "You never left," it said, its voice now clear as day. "You stopped when you saw me. You opened the door. You let me in. This is just what you wish had happened. But you can't change what's already done." I looked down at my hands on the steering wheel. They were pale, so pale, and getting paler. I could see through them now. See the steering wheel through my skin. I looked in the mirror at my face. My eyes were turning black. No white parts anymore. Just black holes, no. I screamed, or tried to scream. No sound came out. My mouth opened wide, wider than it should be able to. I felt my face tearing at the corners of my mouth, making a bigger smile, a smile just like his. Then suddenly, like breaking through water, I gasped and found myself sitting in my truck on the side of the road. The engine was off. The sun was coming up. I looked at my hands. Normal, solid, human. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were bloodshot but normal. My face was covered in sweat, but it was my face. I started the truck with shaking hands and drove. I didn't stop until I saw a real town with real people. I pulled into a truck stop and sat there shaking for an hour. Other truckers asked if I was okay. I couldn't tell them what happened. They'd think I was crazy. Later, I looked up Highway 50 online. I found forums, discussion boards where truckers talk. There were dozens of stories about that stretch of road, about the truck with no lights, about the pale man who asks for rides. They say he was a trucker who died on that road in 1973. His truck went off the road on a dark night, and he was never found. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is what I found in my truck. On the passenger seat, there were scratch marks. Deep gouges in the fabric, like someone with claws had been sitting there. And on the passenger door, written in what looked like ash, were 2 words. Next time. I don't drive Highway 50 at night anymore. I don't care if it costs me time or money. Some roads are meant to be left alone after dark. And if you ever find yourself on that lonely highway at night, and you see taillights that won't let you catch up, or hear a knock on your door in the middle of nowhere, don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. Because I think the pale man was telling the truth. I think somewhere in some other version of that night I did stop. I did open the door, and that version of me is still out there, driving Highway 50 forever, with black eyes and a torn smile, looking for someone else to take my place. Story 2. The Woman in White. My name is Jessica, and what I'm about to tell you happened just 6 months ago. I was driving home from my sister's wedding in Maine. It was late, almost midnight, and I was on Interstate 95. The wedding had been beautiful, but I was tired and just wanted to get home to Boston. I should mention that I'd been having a weird feeling all day. You know that feeling when someone's watching you. I had that feeling at the wedding, during the ceremony, during the reception, even in the bathroom. But every time I looked around, no one was looking at me. Everyone was focused on my sister, the bride, like they should be. The feeling followed me to my car. As I loaded my bridesmaid dress into the trunk, I could have sworn I saw someone in the parking lot, standing by the trees, watching me. But when I looked directly at them, no one was there, just shadows and trees. The highway was pretty empty, just me and a few other cars here and there. I had my music playing softly, and I was sipping coffee to stay awake. Everything was normal until I saw her. She was walking on the side of the highway, a woman in a long white dress. At first, I thought maybe she was a bride who had car trouble. Maybe her car broke down after her wedding. But as I got closer, I noticed something strange. She wasn't walking normally. She was walking backwards, facing the traffic, but moving away from it. And her dress? It wasn't clean and pretty like a wedding dress should be. It was dirty and torn with dark stains all over it. The stains looked wet, even though it hadn't rained in days. They were spreading on the dress as I watched, like the dress was soaking up something from inside, something dark, something that might have been blood. I slowed down as I passed her. She turned her head to look at me, and our eyes met for just a second. Her face was so sad, so very, very sad. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying for hours. Her makeup was running down her face in black streams. She raised her hand, like she was asking for help. But there was something else in her eyes. Something behind the sadness. It was hunger. Deep, terrible hunger. Like she hadn't eaten in years. Like she wanted to eat me. I know I should have stopped. A woman alone on the highway at night clearly needed help. But something in my stomach told me not to. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. I kept driving, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. What if she really needed help? What if I was leaving someone in danger? I looked in my rearview mirror to see her again. She had stopped walking. She was standing still in the middle of the highway watching my car drive away. A truck was coming up behind her, going fast. It was going to hit her. I wanted to scream, to warn her somehow. The truck got closer and closer, and then it went right through her, like she wasn't even there. The truck driver didn't react at all. He couldn't see her. After about 5 minutes, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go back. I took the next exit and turned around. I drove back to where I'd seen her, going slow, looking for the woman in white. But she was gone. There was no one walking on the side of the road. No one at all. I thought maybe someone else had picked her up. That made me feel better. I turned around again at the next exit to continue my journey home. But as I merged back onto the highway, I looked in my rearview mirror, and my heart stopped. She was in my back seat. The woman in the white dress was sitting in my back seat, looking right at me in the mirror. Her sad eyes were now angry, so angry. Water was dripping from her hair, making puddles on my seat. She smelled like pond water, like something that had been underwater for a long time, but it wasn't just water. There were things in her hair, weeds, mud, and something else, something small and white that was moving. When I looked closer, I realized what it was. Fish. Tiny fish were swimming in the water, dripping from her hair. Swimming in circles in the puddles on my seat, I screamed and almost crashed my car. I looked back over my shoulder, but the back seat was empty. No woman, no water, nothing. I looked in the mirror again. She was there in the mirror, but not in the actual seat. How was that possible? She opened her mouth to speak, and water poured out. Not just a little water, but like a waterfall. In the mirror, I could see my back seat filling with water. But when I looked back, it was dry. In the mirror, the water was rising, and she was floating in it, her dress spreading out like a cloud. The water in the mirror was murky, dark green like pond water. Things were floating in it. Leaves, sticks, and other things. Things that looked like they might have been jewelry once. A watch, a ring, a necklace, all covered in algae and rust. "You didn't stop," she said, her voice gurgling through the water. Nobody ever stops. I was crying now, trying to keep my car on the road while this impossible thing was happening. The woman in the mirror reached out her hand toward me. Her fingers were blue and wrinkled, like they'd been in water too long. They pushed through the mirror, actually pushed through the glass like it was water, reaching for the back of my neck. I could feel cold, wet fingers touching my skin. Real fingers, even though when I looked back, nothing was there. The fingers wrapped around my neck, not choking, just holding. They were so cold, ice cold, and wet. I could feel water running down my back, but then I felt something else. Something small moving on my neck where she touched me. I reached back and felt something slimy. I pulled my hand back and looked at it. There was a small fish in my palm, gasping for air. A real fish. Where did it come from? "You have to help me," she whispered in my ear, even though she was only in the mirror. "You have to find him. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him it wasn't his fault." "Who?" I managed to ask, my voice shaking. "Tell who?" "David," she said. "My David. He thinks he killed me. But it was an accident. Just an accident. We were fighting in the car. I grabbed the wheel. We went off the road, into the lake. He got out. I didn't. He thinks it's his fault. Tell him Sarah forgives him. Tell him to stop driving this road every night, looking for me. Tell him to let me go." The cold fingers squeezed tighter, and more water poured down my back. I could feel more things moving in the water. More fish, maybe, or something else. Something with too many legs. "But that's not all," she said, and her voice changed. It became harder, angrier. "There's something else in the lake. Something that came in through my mouth when I drowned. Something that's using my body, wearing it like a costume. It wants out of the lake. It wants to find more bodies to wear." Her face in the mirror started to change. The sadness disappeared, replaced by something else. Something that wasn't human. Her eyes rolled back, showing only white. Her mouth opened wider than any human mouth should open, and something started crawling out. Something black and wet with too many teeth. "It's not me anymore," Sarah's voice said. But it was coming from somewhere else now, not from the thing in the mirror. "Don't let it touch you. Don't let it follow you home. Drive to running water. Cross a bridge. It can't cross running water." The thing in the mirror that used to look like Sarah was changing more and more. Its face was stretching, becoming longer, like a fish or an eel. Its teeth were growing, row after row of them. The fingers on my neck were changing too, becoming webbed, becoming claws. I saw a bridge ahead, a small bridge over a river. I pushed the gas pedal to the floor, racing toward it. The thing in the mirror screamed, a sound like nothing I'd ever heard, like 100 voices all screaming at once, all in pain, all hungry. As soon as my car crossed onto the bridge, the fingers on my neck disappeared. The thing in the mirror shrieked and pulled back. The water in the mirror started to drain away, and the thing that looked like Sarah was pulled down with it, fighting and clawing at the air. Just before it disappeared completely, its face changed back to Sarah's for just a second. "Thank you," she mouthed silently. Then she was gone. The mirror showed only the empty back seat, but the seat wasn't completely dry. There was still a small puddle of water, and in that puddle was something that made me pull over on the other side of the bridge and throw up. It was a driver's license, Sarah's license, and the picture was different. In the picture, Sarah's eyes were completely white, and something black was crawling out of her mouth. I drove straight to a church. I don't know why, but it felt like the right place to go. I sat in the parking lot until morning, too scared to go home, too scared to be alone. When the sun came up, I went inside and told the priest everything. He didn't laugh at me or call me crazy. He just nodded and said he'd heard similar stories before. He told me that sometimes when people die violently, especially in water, they don't cross over properly. They get stuck. And sometimes, things that live in dark water, old things that have been there since before people, they find these stuck souls and use them, wear them like masks to interact with our world. I asked for David's information. It took some doing, but I found him. I called him and told him about Sarah. I told him she forgives him. I told him to stop looking for her, to let her rest. He cried on the phone for 20 minutes. He said he'd been waiting to hear those words for 3 years. But I didn't tell him about the thing in the lake. I didn't tell him that something else was wearing Sarah's face, using her memories to hunt on the highway. Some things are better left unknown. Some truths are too heavy to carry. I never saw Sarah again on that highway. But sometimes when I drive past lakes at night, I see people standing in the water. They're too far away to see clearly, but they're all wearing white, all standing perfectly still, all watching the road, waiting for someone to stop and help, waiting for someone to get close enough to touch. I don't drive near water at night anymore. I take the long way around, even if it adds hours to my trip, because I know what's in those lakes. I know what's wearing the faces of the drowned, and I know that if you stop to help, if you let them touch you, they'll follow you home. And once they know where you live, they'll never stop coming back. They'll knock on your door on rainy nights. They'll tap on your windows. They'll whisper your name from the drains and the faucets. So if you ever see someone walking on the side of the highway at night, especially near water, don't stop. No matter how much they look like they need help. No matter how sad they seem. Because sometimes the dead don't stay dead. And sometimes, the things that wear their faces are hungry for more than just a ride home. Story 3. The Rest Stop. My name is Tom, and I'm a college student. Or I was. I dropped out after what happened to me last summer. I couldn't focus on classes anymore. Couldn't sleep in dorms. Couldn't be around people. Not after what I saw at that rest stop. Last summer, I was driving from Arizona to Texas to visit my parents. It's a long drive, about 12 hours, and I was doing it alone. I'd done it before, so I wasn't worried. I had my music, my snacks, and a full tank of gas. What could go wrong? I left in the afternoon, thinking I'd drive through the night and get home by morning. My parents were expecting me for breakfast. Mom was going to make her famous pancakes. Dad was going to show me the new car he'd bought. It was going to be a good visit. A normal visit. The last normal thing in my life. The drive started fine. I made good time through Arizona. Stopped for gas in New Mexico. The kid working at the gas station looked nervous when I told him I was driving through the night. "Be careful out there," he said. "Lots of rest stops on that road are closed after dark. Don't stop at any that look empty, even if you're tired. Especially if you're tired." I thought he was just being weird. Small town people, you know, always full of strange warnings and old superstitions. I bought my energy drinks and kept driving. Around 1 a.m., I was getting really tired. My eyes were getting heavy, and I was having trouble staying in my lane. I'd drunk 3 energy drinks, but they weren't working anymore. I needed to stop and rest. Just for an hour, maybe 2. I saw a sign for a rest stop 5 miles ahead. Perfect. I could park, maybe sleep for an hour, then keep going. When I got to the exit, I noticed the rest stop looked old. Really old. The lights in the parking lot were yellow and dim. Not the bright white lights most rest stops have now. But I was too tired to care. The parking lot was bigger than most rest stops, with spaces for probably 50 cars. But it was empty except for 2 other cars. One was an old pickup truck, covered in dust like it had been there for days. The other was a minivan with all its doors open. That was weird, but I figured maybe someone was cleaning it or something. I parked far from both vehicles, locked my doors, and leaned my seat back. Before I closed my eyes, I noticed something else strange. The rest stop building, where the bathrooms and vending machines should be, was completely dark. No lights at all. But I was too tired to investigate. I just wanted to sleep. I was asleep in minutes. But about an hour later, something woke me up. A tapping on my window. Soft at first, then louder. I opened my eyes and looked out. There was a man standing next to my car. He was wearing dirty clothes and had long, messy hair. He was smiling, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was too wide, showing too many teeth, and his teeth were wrong. They were filed to points like he'd sharpened them. "Hey, buddy," he said through the glass. His voice was friendly, but his eyes weren't. His eyes were empty. Dead. Like a shark's eyes. Can you help me? My car broke down. I looked over at the pickup truck and the minivan. Which one was his? And why did he need my help at 2 a.m.? Something felt wrong. My skin was crawling, every instinct telling me to get away from this man. Sorry, I said through the closed window. I don't know anything about cars. His smile got even wider. So wide I could see his gums, black and rotting. That's okay. Maybe you could just give me a ride? Just to the next town? No, sorry, I said. I'm not going that way. He knew I was lying. We both knew I was lying. His smile disappeared and his face became angry. Really angry. The kind of angry that comes before violence. He hit my window hard with his fist. Open the door, he shouted. Open it right now. I started my car and put it in reverse. But before I could move, I saw something that made my blood freeze. There were more people coming out of the darkness. 3, 4, 5 of them, all walking slowly toward my car, all with those same 2 wide smiles, all with those same dead eyes. They were coming from the rest stop building. But not through the doors. They were coming through the walls, walking right through them like they weren't there, or like they weren't solid. Some of them were dragging things. As they got closer to the dim lights, I saw what they were dragging. Bodies. Fresh bodies. One of them was dragging something. As they got closer to the dim lights, I saw what it was. A person. A young man in a college t-shirt just like mine. He wasn't moving. His eyes were open but empty. Dead. There was something wrong with his head. It looked deflated, like something had sucked everything out of it through a hole I couldn't see. Another one was dragging a woman in business clothes. Her body was twisted in impossible ways, arms and legs bent at angles that made me sick to look at. Her mouth was open in a silent scream, and something black was pouring out of it. Not blood. Something thicker, like tar. I slammed on the gas, backing up fast. The people started running toward me. One of them jumped on my hood as I shifted to drive. His face pressed against my windshield, that horrible smile right in front of me. His eyes were wild, crazy, but there was something else in them. Something moving behind the eyeballs, like worms or snakes coiling and uncoiling. Don't leave, he screamed. Nobody leaves. You're going to love it here. We all love it here. We've been here so long and we love it. His mouth opened wider and something started crawling out. A hand, a human hand, small like a child's, reaching out from inside his throat. Then another hand. Then a small face, pale and screaming silently. There was a person inside him. A small person. Maybe a child trying to crawl out of his mouth. I turned the wheel hard and accelerated. He fell off, rolling on the ground. The others were trying to surround my car, but I drove right through them. One grabbed my door handle as I passed, running alongside my car. I could hear him laughing, a high, crazy laugh that sounded more like screaming. His fingers were impossibly strong. He was keeping up with my car at 30 miles per hour, still holding on, still laughing. His face was right at my window, and I could see him more clearly. His skin was moving, rippling like there were things underneath it. Things trying to get out! You can't leave! He screamed. No one leaves? This is where the road ends. This is where everything ends. You're already here! You've always been here! I swerved hard, and he finally let go, tumbling across the parking lot. I made it to the highway entrance and floored it. In my rearview mirror, I could see them standing at the edge of the road, watching me drive away. They didn't try to follow. They just stood there waiting for the next tired driver to stop. But then I noticed something that made my hands shake on the steering wheel. In the mirror, they weren't people anymore. They were something else. Tall, too tall, with too many arms and legs. Like spiders made of human parts, they were crawling over each other, tangling together into one massive thing that shouldn't exist. I drove for 50 miles before I stopped looking in the mirror. My gas light came on, but I didn't stop. I drove on empty for another 20 miles until I finally saw lights. A real town, a real gas station, real people. When I got to the next town, I went straight to the police station. I told them everything. The officers looked at each other with worried faces. One of them pulled out a map and asked me to show them where this rest stop was. I pointed to the spot on the highway where I'd stopped. The officer shook his head. "Son," he said, "there's no rest stop there. Hasn't been for 10 years. The old one was closed after some bad things happened." "What kind of bad things?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. He told me that 10 years ago, A group of people had been living at that abandoned rest stop. But they weren't normal people. They were a cult, he said. They believed that certain places were thin spots between our world and somewhere else. Somewhere worse. They were trying to open a door to that other place. They killed 30 people before we found them, the officer said. Travelers, mostly. People just passing through. We found the bodies in the old septic tanks. But they weren't just dead. They were changed, like something had been done to them. Something we couldn't explain. What happened to the cult? I asked. That's the thing, he said. When we got there, they were all dead too. All of them. Sitting in a circle in the main building, holding hands, smiling. They'd been dead for days, but their eyes were still open. Still moving, following us as we walked around. We burned the whole place down, built a new rest stop 5 miles up the road. He showed me pictures from the case file. I wish he hadn't. The bodies in those photos weren't human anymore. They were wrong, mixed together. Parts from different people combined into things that shouldn't exist. And in every photo, in the background, there were shadows, tall shadows with too many arms. But here's what really bothers me, the officer continued. Every few months, someone comes in with a story like yours. They say they stopped at a rest stop that doesn't exist. They describe the same people, the same things, and every time they barely escape. But some don't escape, he added quietly. We find their cars sometimes, parked on the shoulder near where the old rest stop was. Doors open, keys still in the ignition. No sign of the drivers, no sign at all. He gave me a cup of coffee and had another officer follow me to the city limits to make sure I got away safe. As we drove past the spot where I'd stopped, I looked carefully. There was nothing there, just empty desert. But in the corner of my eye, I could see lights. Yellow dim lights. And if I didn't look directly at it, I could see the rest stop. Still there, still waiting. I made it home to my parents, but I couldn't tell them what happened. How could I? They'd think I was crazy. Or worse, they'd want to drive that road themselves to see. So I kept quiet, but I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those things that used to be people. I heard that laughing that sounded like screaming. I dropped out of college. I couldn't focus on normal things anymore. How could I care about math or history when I knew there were places like that rest stop? Places where reality was broken, where things that shouldn't exist were waiting for people to stop. I got a job in my hometown. I never leave. I never travel. I especially never drive at night, because I know that rest stop is still out there, somewhere between here and nowhere. It moves around, they say. Appears on different highways in different states, always there for tired drivers who need to rest, and sometimes late at night I get calls. Unknown numbers. When I answer, I hear that laughing, that screaming laugh, and a voice, barely human anymore, whispers, "We're still here. Still waiting. You can check out, but you can never leave. Come back. Come back and stay with us forever." I changed my number 3 times. The calls always find me. They know where I am. They know I'm the one who got away. And someday I know they'll come for me. Not on the highway, but they'll come. Because some doors, once opened, can never really be closed. And some places, once seen, follow you home. So if you're ever driving late at night and you see a rest stop that looks old, that looks empty, don't stop. No matter how tired you are, keep driving. Drive until you run out of gas if you have to. Because some rest stops aren't meant for resting. They're meant for collecting. And once you're collected, you become part of the place. Part of the thing that waits in the darkness for the next tired driver to stop. Trust me. I know. I still have the marks on my door handle where that thing held on. Deep gouges in the metal that no one can explain. And sometimes, when I look at them, they seem fresh. Like they just happened. Like that thing is still holding on. Still trying to pull me back to that place that shouldn't exist. Don't stop at empty rest stops. Don't stop for strangers on the road. And whatever you do, if you see a place that looks wrong, that feels wrong, keep driving. Some places are traps, and some traps never let go. Story 4. The Chase. My name is Rachel and I'm a nurse. I work the night shift at a hospital in Oklahoma, which means I'm often driving home on empty highways at 3 or 4 a.m. I'm used to it. I actually liked it for many years. The quiet roads, the peaceful drive home after a hard shift, my favorite songs playing softly on the radio. It was my time to relax and think about my day. But one morning changed everything. Now I can't drive at night without checking my mirrors every few seconds. I can't be alone on a highway without feeling my heart race. This is what happened to me. It was a Thursday in November 2021. The night had been rough at the hospital. We lost 2 patients, and I'd been on my feet for 13 hours straight. My back hurt, my head hurt, and all I wanted was to get home to my small apartment, take a hot shower, and sleep until my next shift. The parking lot was almost empty when I walked to my car at 3:47 a.m. I remember the exact time because I checked my phone before getting in. The air was cold, and I could see my breath making little clouds. I got in my car, turned on the heater, and sat there for a minute, letting the car warm up. I should have looked in my back seat then. I should have checked, but I was tired, and I'd parked under a bright light. I felt safe. That was my first mistake. I pulled out of the hospital parking lot and got on Highway 69, heading south toward my town about 45 minutes away. The highway was empty, just me and the occasional big truck carrying goods through the night. I liked this part of my drive. It was peaceful. I turned on my radio and found my favorite station that plays old songs from the 90s. I was humming along to a song I loved in high school when I first noticed the car. It was a black sedan, maybe a Toyota Camry or Honda Accord. Nothing special about it, nothing that would make you look twice. It was behind me, maybe 3 or 4 car lengths back. At first, I didn't think anything about it. Lots of people drive at night. Maybe it was someone else getting off work, just like me. But after 10 minutes, I noticed the car was still there. Still the exact same distance behind me. I was going about 70 miles per hour, and so were they. When I slowed down a little to let a truck pass, the black car slowed down too. When I sped back up, it sped up, always keeping that same distance, never getting closer, never falling back. A little warning bell started ringing in my head. You know that feeling when something isn't quite right? That's what I was feeling. I decided to test it. There was an exit coming up that I never take, exit 47 for a small town called Brennan. I put on my signal and moved to the exit lane. The black car put on its signal too. My hands started to get sweaty on the steering wheel. Maybe it was just coincidence. Maybe this person just happened to be going to Brennan too. But at the last second, I turned my signal off and stayed on the highway, swerving back into the main lane. The black car did the exact same thing. No hesitation. They followed my move perfectly. Now I was scared. Really scared. This wasn't coincidence. Someone was following me. But why? Who was this person? What did they want? I thought about calling 911, but what would I say? Help, someone's driving behind me? That's not a crime. They weren't doing anything illegal. Just driving. Just following. I sped up to 80 miles per hour. The black car sped up too. I moved to the left lane. The black car moved to the left lane. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. My mouth was dry. My hands were shaking. I needed to do something, but what? Then the car started flashing its high beams at me. On and off, on and off. The bright lights filled my car, bouncing off my rearview mirror right into my eyes. It was so bright I could barely see the road. Flash, flash, flash. What did they want? Were they trying to get me to pull over? No way. No way was I pulling over on a dark highway with some stranger following me. I'd watched enough true crime shows to know that was a bad idea. I'd heard enough stories from other nurses about women who stopped to help someone and were never seen again. I wasn't going to be one of those stories, but what could I do? My exit was still 15 miles away. And even if I made it to my exit, then what? This person would follow me home. They'd know where I live. I live alone. No boyfriend, no roommate, just me and my cat. I couldn't lead this person to my apartment. The high beams kept flashing. Flash, flash, flash. And now the car was getting closer. Not a lot, but little by little. It was closing the gap between us. I could see the outline of the driver now when the lights from passing trucks lit up the car. It looked like a man, but I couldn't see his face. Just a dark shape behind the wheel. I pressed harder on the gas. 85 miles per hour. 90. My little Honda Civic was shaking from the speed. I'd never driven this fast in my life. But the black car stayed with me, still flashing those lights. Flash, flash, flash. Like Morse code. Like it was trying to tell me something. Then I remembered there was a police station about 2 miles from my exit. It was right off the highway, easy to get to. I'd driven past it 100 times. If I could make it there, I'd be safe. The police would help me. They'd stop this person who was following me. My exit was coming up. 5 miles, 4 miles, 3. The black car was still behind me, still flashing its lights. But now it was definitely getting closer. Maybe 2 car lengths back now. I could see the front of the car more clearly. It was a Camry, dark blue or black, with one headlight slightly dimmer than the other, 2 miles to my exit. I moved to the right lane, trying to look like I was just driving normally. The black car moved over too, 1 mile. I could see the exit sign in the distance. This was it. I had to time this perfectly. If I signaled too early, the car would know where I was going. If I waited too long, I might miss the exit. I waited until the last possible second, then yanked the wheel to the right, flying across the solid white line and onto the exit ramp. My tires screamed. The car tilted like it might flip over, but I made it. I was on the exit ramp, going way too fast, but I'd made it. The black car almost missed the exit. I saw it swerve hard, nearly hitting the barrier, but it managed to follow me off the highway. Now we were on smaller roads and the car was getting even closer. I could see the driver more clearly now in my rearview mirror. It was definitely a man. He looked older, maybe in his 50s, with gray hair. His face looked strange. Not angry like I expected, but worried. Scared even, and he was yelling something. I could see his mouth moving like he was shouting. I ran a red light at the bottom of the exit ramp. I'd never run a red light in my life, but I did it now without thinking. The black car ran it too right behind me. We were racing through empty streets now. I took a hard left, tires squealing. The police station was just 3 blocks away. The black car suddenly sped up even more, pulling up beside me. We were driving side by side now on this empty street. The driver's window was down, and the man was definitely yelling at me. He was waving something in his hand. Oh God, was it a gun, a knife? I screamed and jerked the wheel to the right, almost hitting a parked car. The police station was right there, right in front of me. I turned hard into the parking lot. Going so fast I went up on 2 wheels for a second. I slammed on the brakes in front of the main door, threw the car in park, and jumped out running. Behind me I heard the other car's brakes squeal as it pulled in behind me. Help! I screamed, bursting through the door of the police station. Someone's chasing me. He's right behind me. He has a weapon. 2 officers jumped up from their desks. One ran past me toward the door. The other grabbed my arm, pulling me further inside, away from the windows. You're safe now, he said. You're okay. Just breathe. I could hear shouting outside. A lot of shouting. Then it got quiet. After what felt like forever, but was probably only 2 or 3 minutes, the first officer came back in. He had a strange look on his face, confused and worried at the same time. Ma'am, he said slowly, the man who was following you. He says he was trying to help you. He says there was someone in your back seat. The world stopped. Everything went silent except for a ringing in my ears. What? I whispered. The man who'd been following me came in then, in handcuffs but not resisting. He was breathing hard and his face was red from stress. I tried to tell you, he said, his voice shaky. I saw him when you passed under a streetlight about 20 miles back. Someone sat up in your back seat. They had something shiny in their hand. I started flashing my lights to warn you, but you sped up. I didn't know what else to do, so I stayed with you. I couldn't let you stop alone with that person in your car. My legs felt like water. I would have fallen if the officer wasn't holding my arm. They took me to a chair and sat me down. 2 other officers went out to my car with flashlights and guns drawn. I watched through the window as they carefully approached my Honda, 1 on each side. They looked in the back seat with their flashlights. One officer suddenly jumped back and said something into his radio. They opened the back door carefully, then started pulling things out. Things that weren't mine. Things that made my stomach turn and my skin crawl, zip ties, a roll of duct tape, a knife with a 6-inch blade, a ski mask, and worst of all, a small bottle of something that turned out to be chloroform. Everything someone would need to kidnap someone, to hurt someone, to make someone disappear. They searched more and found something else. In my trunk, which had been opened from the inside using the emergency release, they found marks, scratches on the metal, footprints. Someone had been hiding in my trunk and had climbed into my back seat while I was working my shift at the hospital. The security cameras at the hospital confirmed it. They showed a man approaching my car at 9 p.m. while I was still working. He looked around to make sure no one was watching, then used something to open my trunk and climbed inside. He pulled it closed from the inside. He'd been in there for almost 7 hours, waiting for me to get off work. When I started driving, he must have waited until I was on the highway to climb into the back seat. He was probably waiting for me to stop somewhere dark and isolated. Maybe at a red light on an empty road. Maybe when I got home. Then he would have... I can't even think about what he would have done. The man in the black car, whose name was James, had saved my life. This 56-year-old grandfather had seen the danger and tried to warn me, when I didn't understand, when I tried to get away from him. He stayed with me anyway. He risked looking like a stalker, risked getting arrested or shot, just to make sure I got somewhere safe. I have 3 daughters, James told me later. After the police let him go and apologized about 100 times. One of them is about your age. She's a teacher, drives home late sometimes. When I saw that man in your back seat, all I could think about was what if that was my daughter? What if she was in danger and everyone just drove by and did nothing? I started crying then, really crying. This complete stranger had risked everything to save me. While I was running from him, thinking he was the danger, he was actually protecting me from the real threat that was literally right behind me the whole time. The police never caught the man who was in my car. When James and I had pulled into the police station, he must have slipped out and run away in the confusion. They found some fingerprints, but they didn't match anyone in the system. He's still out there somewhere, probably looking for another victim. They did connect him to 2 other cases, though. 2 women who had disappeared from parking lots in the past year. Both had worked late shifts. Both had walked to their cars alone. Both were never seen again. Their cars were found abandoned on the side of the road, doors open, purses still inside. No sign of struggle. It was like they just vanished. I think about those women a lot. I think about how easily I could have been the 3rd one. If James hadn't been driving behind me at exactly the right time. If he hadn't seen the man sit up in my back seat. If he hadn't decided to follow me and try to warn me. So many ifs that saved my life. Now I do things differently. I never walk to my car alone after my shift. Security walks me out, even if it feels silly. I check my back seat and my trunk every single time before I get in my car. Every single time. I have pepper spray in my hand when I walk through parking lots, and I installed a dash cam that records inside my car too, just in case. But the biggest change is this. If someone flashes their lights at me now, I don't speed up. I don't assume they're trying to hurt me. I pull into the nearest safe, well-lit place, a gas station, a restaurant, anywhere with people around, and I check my car. Because sometimes the person you think is chasing you is actually trying to save you. Sometimes the stranger behind you is your guardian angel, and the real monster is already in the car with you. James and I still keep in touch. He texts me sometimes to make sure I'm okay. I sent him a Father's Day card this year that said, "Thanks for being the dad everyone needs on a dark highway." He said it made him cry. I still work the night shift. I still drive home on dark highways, but I'm never really alone now. I know there are good people out there, people like James, watching out for strangers. And I know there are bad people too, hiding in trunks and back seats, waiting for their chance. The trick is knowing which is which, and sometimes you don't know until it's almost too late. Story 5. The Highway That Doesn't Exist. My name is Marcus, and I need to tell you about something that shouldn't exist. Something that goes against everything we know about reality. I'm a traveling salesman, or at least I was until last year. I've driven probably 1,000,000 miles in my 10 years doing that job. I knew every highway, every shortcut, every back road from Missouri to California. I had apps on my phone that showed traffic in real time. I had GPS systems that updated every day. I thought I knew every road in America. I was wrong. There's one road that's not on any map. One highway that doesn't show up on any GPS. And once you find it, or maybe once it finds you, your life is never the same again. It was October 15th, 2022. I know the exact date because I've gone over it in my mind 1,000 times. Trying to figure out what I did differently that day. Why that day? Why me? I was driving from St. Louis to Kansas City for a big sales meeting the next morning. It's a route I'd done hundreds of times. Take Interstate 70 west, drive for about 4 hours, check into my usual hotel by the airport. Simple. Boring even. I left St. Louis around 7 p.m., later than I wanted, but not too bad. The meeting wasn't until 10 a.m., so I had plenty of time. The weather was nice, clear and cool, perfect for driving. I had a large coffee, a full tank of gas, and a playlist of podcasts to keep me company. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. About an hour into the drive, I hit traffic. Not unusual for I-70, but this was bad. Complete standstill. I turned on the radio and heard about a massive accident. A semi-truck had jackknifed and caught fire. Multiple cars involved. They were saying the highway would be closed for at least 4 or 5 hours while they cleared everything and investigated. I couldn't wait that long. I needed to get to Kansas City, get some sleep, and be fresh for my meeting. This was a big client, potentially worth millions to my company, so I decided to get off the highway and take back roads. I'd done it before when there was construction or weather problems. It would take longer, but at least I'd be moving. I got off at the next exit, a little town called Warrenton. My GPS recalculated and showed me a route using state highways and county roads. It would add about an hour to my trip, but that was better than sitting in traffic for 5 hours. I stopped at a gas station to use the bathroom and buy some snacks for the longer drive. The kid behind the counter looked at me funny when I told him where I was heading. "You're taking the back roads to Kansas City at night?" he asked. "Most people just wait out the traffic." "Can't wait," I said. "Important meeting tomorrow." He shrugged. "Just be careful out there. Roads get pretty dark. And some of them—" He stopped, like he was going to say something else, then just shook his head. "Just be careful." I should have asked him what he meant. I should have listened to the warning in his voice. But I was in a hurry, focused on my meeting, thinking about my commission. I just bought my snacks and left. The first hour was fine. County Road 47 to State Highway 94, following the Missouri River. The roads were dark and winding, but my car's headlights were good, and there wasn't much traffic. Just me and the occasional farmhouse with lights in the windows. My GPS was working perfectly, showing me each turn, counting down the miles to Kansas City. Then things started to get weird. My GPS began glitching, the screen flickering on and off. The voice kept saying recalculating, even though I was following the route perfectly. Then it said something I'd never heard it say before. GPS signal lost. Searching for alternate route. But how could the signal be lost? It was a clear night. No clouds, no storms. I could see stars everywhere. I pulled over and checked my phone. No signal there either. Not one bar. That was impossible. I had the best carrier, the one that advertises they cover 99% of America. But both my phone and my car's GPS were completely dead. I decided to keep driving. I could see the road, and it was heading generally west, which was the right direction. I'd find a town soon, or the GPS would start working again, or I'd see a sign for a highway I recognized. No big deal. That's when I saw it. An old road sign, rusty and bent like it had been there for decades. It said, Highway 0, next right, 1 mile, Highway 0. That didn't make sense. Highway numbers start at 1. There's no Highway 0. I'd been driving for 10 years, and I'd never heard of a Highway 0. But maybe it was some old local designation, something from before the interstate system was built. And anyway, any highway was better than these twisting country roads in the dark. I slowed down, looking for the turn. There it was, another old sign. Highway 0, turn here. The road looked good, better than the county road I was on. Fresh black asphalt that seemed to glow in my headlights. Bright yellow lines down the center. It looked new, but the sign was old. That was strange. I turned onto Highway 0, and immediately everything changed. The temperature in my car dropped like I'd driven into a freezer. My breath came out in clouds. The radio, which had been playing static, went completely silent. Not just quiet, silent. The kind of silence that hurts your ears. But the strangest thing was the darkness. The moment I turned onto Highway 0, the darkness around the road became absolute. Not normal nighttime darkness where you can see shapes and shadows. This was like driving through a tunnel made of nothing. My headlights lit up the road ahead, but the light just stopped at the edges of the road. It didn't fade out gradually like normal light. It just stopped, like there was a wall of black on either side of the highway. I wanted to turn around immediately. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to get off this road. But when I looked in my rearview mirror, there was no road behind me, just that same wall of absolute darkness. The road I'd turned from was gone. There was only Highway 0 now, stretching ahead into nothing. I kept driving because what else could I do? The speedometer said I was going 60 miles per hour, but it didn't feel like I was moving at all. There were no landmarks, no signs, no mile markers. Just perfect black road with perfect yellow lines, going on and on and on. After what felt like 10 minutes but could have been an hour, time felt wrong on this road. I saw the first car. It was pulled over on the shoulder about 100 yards ahead, hazard lights blinking. As I got closer, I could see it was an old car, maybe from the 1990s, a blue Ford Taurus with rust on the doors. The driver was still inside. I slowed down as I passed, thinking maybe they needed help. But when I looked over, I wished I hadn't. The driver was sitting perfectly still, hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. Not blinking, not breathing that I could see, just staring at nothing with eyes that looked empty, dead but not dead, something worse than dead. I sped up, my hands shaking on the wheel. But a mile later, there was another car, a pickup truck this time, also pulled over, also with its hazards on. The driver was doing the exact same thing, sitting perfectly still, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. This driver was a woman, middle-aged, wearing a business suit like she'd been coming from work. How long had she been sitting there? More cars appeared every mile or so, all different makes and models, from different years. Some looked brand new, others looked decades old, but all the drivers were the same, frozen in place, staring ahead, hands on their steering wheels like they were still driving even though their cars were stopped. I counted 23 cars before I stopped counting. 23 people just sitting there on the side of this impossible road. Were they alive? Were they dead? Were they something in between? I didn't want to know. I just wanted to get off this road and never come back. But the road just kept going. No exits, no crossroads, no place to turn around. Just straight, perfect highway through absolute darkness. My gas gauge hadn't moved even though I'd been driving for what felt like hours. The clock in my car had stopped at 8:47 p.m. My phone was completely dead. Not just no signal, but won't turn on dead. Then my car started to slow down. I pressed the gas pedal, but nothing happened. The engine was still running. I could hear it. But the car kept slowing down. 50 miles per hour. 40. 30. I pumped the gas, slammed it to the floor, but the car just kept slowing down like something was pulling it toward the shoulder. No, 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 I shouted, fighting with the steering wheel. But it turned on its own, guiding my car toward the side of the road. I pulled the wheel left as hard as I could, but it didn't matter. The car had its own plan now in miles per hour. 10. 5. The car drifted onto the shoulder and came to a stop. The engine died. The hazard lights turned on by themselves. Click, 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 click. I tried to start the engine. Nothing, not even a click. I tried to open the door. The handle moved, but the door wouldn't open. I pushed against it with my shoulder, kicked it, beat on the window. Nothing. I was trapped. And then the worst part started. My hands began moving on their own, slowly rising up to the steering wheel. I tried to stop them, tried to keep them in my lap. But they moved like someone else was controlling them. They placed themselves at 10 and 2, gripping the wheel. My head started to turn forward. I fought it, tried to look around, tried to close my eyes. But my head turned until I was staring straight ahead at nothing. My eyes locked into place and I couldn't blink. I couldn't move. I could only stare at the darkness beyond my windshield, but my mind was still working. I was still aware, still thinking, still terrified. I understood now what had happened to all those other drivers. They weren't dead. They were trapped, just like me. Trapped in their cars, trapped in their bodies, trapped on this road that shouldn't exist. How long had they been here? Years? Decades? Was this hell? Was this some kind of punishment? I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond. I could only sit there, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing, while my mind raced in panic. This was going to be my eternity, sitting on the side of Highway 0, conscious but frozen, forever. I don't know how long I sat there. Time doesn't work on Highway 0. It could have been minutes or hours or days. There was no way to tell. No sun rose. No cars passed. Just me and the darkness and the endless click-click of my hazard lights. Then I heard something, a voice, very faint, like it was coming from very far away or maybe from inside my own head. Marcus? Marcus, where are you? It was my wife, Jennifer. But that was impossible. She was in St. Louis, hundreds of miles away. She didn't even know which route I was taking. Marcus, please, if you can hear me, come back. Follow my voice! Her voice got a little louder, a little clearer, and I felt something, a warmth in my chest, like a small flame in all that cold darkness. The warmth spread slowly, fighting against the frozen feeling that held me in place. I'm here, Marcus. I'm right here. Come back to me. I focused on that warmth on her voice. I put all my will, all my strength, into moving just one finger, just one tiny movement to break whatever spell this road had on me. My pinky finger twitched. Just a tiny movement, but it was enough. The moment my finger moved, cracks appeared in the darkness around me. Real cracks, like the darkness was made of glass. Light leaked through the cracks, real light, warm and golden. The cracks spread across my windshield, across the windows, across everything. That's it, Marcus. Come back, come home. I managed to move my whole hand, pulling it off the steering wheel. The moment my hand left the wheel, everything shattered. The darkness, the road, the car. Everything broke apart like a mirror dropping on concrete. There was a flash of blinding white light, and then I was lying on a hospital bed. Jennifer was holding my hand, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, thank God," she said. "Oh, thank God, you're awake." My throat was dry. I could barely speak. "What? What happened?" "You've been in a coma," she said. 3 days. They found you in your car on some back road in Missouri. The police said you were just sitting there, parked on the shoulder with your hazards on. The engine was running, but you were unconscious. They couldn't wake you up. 3 days? It felt like so much longer. Or maybe shorter. Time still felt wrong. The doctors ran tests. Lots of tests. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. No stroke, no heart attack, no drugs in my system. I was perfectly healthy except for the fact that I'd been unconscious for 3 days. They called it a medical mystery. But the real mystery was this. When the police found me, I was on a road that wasn't supposed to be there. County Road 186, they said. But when they went back the next day to investigate, the road was gone. Not closed, not blocked off. Gone, like it had never existed. There was just a cornfield where the road should have been. They checked their GPS systems, their maps, their records. No County Road 186, never had been. But they had photos of my car on that road. They had the report from the officers who found me. The road was real when they were there. Then it wasn't. They also found something else. 17 other missing person cases over the past 50 years. All last seen in that same area. Some were found days later in different locations. Unconscious or confused, with no memory of what happened. Others were never found at all. One police officer, an older guy named Bill, pulled me aside before I left the hospital. "I've been working this area for 30 years, he said quietly. "And I've heard stories. Stories about roads that appear and disappear. Roads that take you places you're not supposed to go. Most people think it's just folklore, urban legends, but I've seen too much to dismiss it." He told me about a woman they found in 1987, parked on a road that didn't exist. She'd been missing for a week. When she woke up, she kept talking about Highway 0 and cars full of frozen people. They thought she was crazy, traumatized. She spent years in therapy trying to convince herself it was just a nightmare. "You're not crazy," Bill told me. "Whatever you saw, whatever happened to you, it was real. Maybe not real in the way we understand real, but real nonetheless. And you're lucky. You got out. Not everyone does. I quit my job after that. Told my company I was done with traveling. They weren't happy, but I didn't care. I can't drive anymore. I tried once, just to go to the grocery store. But the moment I sat behind the wheel, my hands started shaking so bad I couldn't hold it. All I could think about was my hands moving on their own, placing themselves at 10 and 2, trapping me forever. Jennifer drives me places now. She doesn't complain, but I can see the worry in her eyes. She knows something happened to me out there. Something more than just a medical emergency. Sometimes she asks me about it, carefully, gently. But how can I tell her the truth? How can I tell her about Highway 0 and the frozen drivers and the darkness that eats light? But here's the thing that really haunts me. Sometimes, late at night, I dream about that road. And in my dreams, I'm still there. Still sitting in my car on the shoulder, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. In my dreams, this life, Jennifer, the hospital, my recovery. All of this is just something my trapped mind created to cope with the horror. In my dreams, I never really escaped. And sometimes, when I wake up from those dreams, I can still hear it. Click, 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 click. The sound of hazard lights blinking in the darkness. And I wonder, which is the dream and which is real? Am I here, safe in my bed? Or am I still out there on Highway 0, frozen forever, just imagining that I escaped? I'll never know for sure. That's the real horror. I'll never really know if I got away, or if this is just what my mind shows me while my body sits on that impossible road, hands at 10 and 2, staring into the darkness that never ends. So if you're ever driving at night and your GPS stops working, if you see a sign for Highway 0, don't turn. No matter how lost you are, no matter how much you need to find a road, don't turn onto Highway 0. Keep driving on whatever road you're on, even if it takes you hours out of your way. Because some roads don't lead anywhere you want to go. Some roads don't let you leave once you're on them. And somewhere out there, on a highway that doesn't exist, there are drivers who will never reach their destination. They're sitting in their cars, frozen in place, aware but unable to move, unable to scream, unable to die, waiting for someone to save them. Waiting forever, I was lucky. I had someone calling me back, someone whose voice could reach through whatever darkness holds that road. But not everyone has that. Not everyone gets pulled back. Some people just disappear onto roads that aren't on any map, and they never come home. These 5 stories I've shared with you tonight are all true. Every single one. They were told to me by real people who survived real nightmares on dark highways. People who encountered things that shouldn't exist, things that wait in the darkness for lonely drivers. Think about it. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are millions of people driving on highways all over the world. Most of them will reach their destination safely. They'll get home, hug their families, and never know how close they came to something terrible. But some won't. Some will encounter the things that hide in the darkness. The phantom trucks that match your speed. The women in white who appear in your mirror. The rest stops that shouldn't be there. The strangers who might be trying to save you or hurt you. The roads that don't exist but somehow do. Every time you get in your car, especially at night, you're taking a risk. Not just from other drivers or bad weather or mechanical problems. You're risking an encounter with something that can't be explained. Something that doesn't follow the rules of our normal world. Something that's waiting out there in the dark, looking for the next lonely driver to claim. So remember these stories. Remember them every time you drive at night. Check your back seat and trunk before you get in your car. Every single time. No exceptions. If someone flashes their lights at you, don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Find a safe place and check your car. If you see someone who needs help on the side of the road, call the police but don't stop. Not at night. Not when you're alone. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If a road doesn't look right, don't take it. If your GPS starts acting strange, don't follow it blindly. Sometimes getting lost is better than finding the wrong road. Sometimes being late is better than never arriving at all. And if you ever find yourself on a highway that feels wrong, a road that shouldn't exist, don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. Keep driving until you find a way off. Don't look at the cars on the shoulder. Don't listen to the voices calling you. Just drive and pray you make it through. Because the highways we travel aren't just ribbons of asphalt connecting cities and towns. They're passages through the darkness. And sometimes that darkness reaches out. Sometimes it pulls people in and doesn't let them go. The lucky ones, like the people in these stories, escape with just a terrifying memory. But others aren't so lucky. Others become part of the highway forever, trapped between here and nowhere, waiting in the darkness for someone to find them. Every year, thousands of people go missing on highways. Their cars are found abandoned, sometimes with the engine still running. No sign of struggle, no explanation, just gone. The authorities call them missing persons cases. They put up flyers, search the area, interview witnesses, but they never find answers because they're looking in the wrong places. They're looking in our world when these people have been pulled into somewhere else, somewhere that exists in the spaces between the mile markers, in the darkness beyond the headlights. I know these stories are hard to believe. I know they sound impossible, but ask yourself this. Have you ever been driving at night and felt like someone was watching you? Have you ever seen something in your peripheral vision that disappeared when you looked directly at it? Have you ever taken a wrong turn and ended up somewhere that felt completely wrong, like you'd crossed into a different world? Most of us dismiss these feelings. We tell ourselves we're tired, seeing things, being paranoid. But what if we're not? What if those instincts are trying to warn us about something real? Something that hunts on the highways, looking for the next victim? The next time you're driving alone at night, remember these stories. Remember that the biggest danger on the road might not be what you can see. It might be what's hiding just beyond your headlights, waiting for the right moment. It might be the hitchhiker who isn't really there, the car that follows but never passes, the road that appears from nowhere and leads to nothing. Stay safe out there. Drive with your doors locked. Keep your phone charged. Tell someone your route before you leave. And if something doesn't feel right, Trust that feeling. It might save your life, because every night, on every highway, the darkness is waiting. It's patient, it's hungry, and it never stops looking for the next driver to claim. Don't let it be you. Drive safe. Stay alert. And whatever you do, never forget that some roads lead to places we're not meant to go. Some highways connect to things beyond our understanding. And sometimes, the most dangerous part of any journey isn't the destination, or even the road itself. It's what's traveling on that road with you, unseen in the darkness, waiting for its chance. Sweet dreams and safe travels. You're going to need both, because now that you know these stories, now that you know what's out there, you'll never drive at night the same way again. Every shadow will look deeper. Every strange car will seem more threatening. Every unknown road will feel more dangerous, and that's good. That fear might keep you alive. It might make you check your back seat one more time. It might make you take the longer, safer route. It might make you decide to wait until morning to make that drive. Because the darkness is real, and it's waiting. On every highway, every night it's there. Waiting for the next person who doesn't check their back seat. Waiting for the next driver who stops to help a stranger. Waiting for the next car to turn onto a road that shouldn't exist. Don't be that person. Don't be the next story. Stay safe, stay smart, and always, always remember, the highway at night is not your friend. It's a passage through territories we don't understand, and sometimes we don't make it through unchanged. Sometimes we don't make it through at all. Good night, and drive carefully. Your life might depend on it.